Howdy, folks. Well, last week I showed you the finished Ricky's still life thing. At the time of filming, I'm filming this like a week early because I wanted to get going on putting extra gesso on this canvas. I think I had said before that I would. Whoops, sorry. We're having, it's not really technical issues, but bracing issues. Um, I think I had said I wanted to do the next series of videos starting from step one, pick a canvas and gesso it. So, and then work all the way through. And then any sort of in progress stuff or other things will just be shown on Scuttlebutt in still images or whatever. So, this is the image for the next painting that we'll be doing on this Paint with Pyra. By the way, hi, my name's Pyra Draculea. I guess you probably knew that from the thing, although who knows? Maybe my algorithm's starting to show me my stuff to new people. It's hard to tell. So, I live in the Cowichan Valley. Every year we have the Cowichan Exhibition. Here's a photo that I took a couple years ago of the flower show. It's mostly gray, but we will fix that in the painting. And then I do cartooning. I have Ricky B. Rat. Now, this is a cartoon I did actually, I think, around the time of this year's Cowex. For the last few years, for the last several years, I volunteered at Cowex because the needlework embroidery group that I belong to manages their needlework division, Creative Stitchery. And then I took over running Creative Stitchery from my friend who used to run it for like 15 years. She needed a break, so I was like, okay, I'll run it. And then I need a break after just 3 years, which goes to show how much way more organized my friend is and more energetic. But anyways, she had actually told me last year, she's like, well, if you decide you don't want to do it anymore, I think I'd be ready to come back whenever. So this year we were co-chairs, and then I told her next year, it's like, I will show up and I will help you. I cannot be in charge of organizing the stuff in advance. I'm sorry. I'm too scatterbrained. Anyways, but I had this idea because since marijuana is legal in Canada, even for recreational use, we've got dispensaries everywhere, and that's a whole other discussion. But there actually is a section in the Cowichan Exhibition, Cowex, for homegrown cannabis. And it just popped into my head that my character Ricky B. Rat, who he likes getting stoned, he kind of prefers mushrooms, but he likes weed too. And of course, he's a rat. They have a from the kitchen section. So I was thinking Ricky would hear about that there was weed there and walk in with his homemade Ofishul Juj. You know, his spelling leaves a lot to be desired, but I guess he spells things phonetically. Phonics works sometimes, but he didn't really go the step beyond. Anyways, I just had this vision of Ricky walking in there going, take me to your weed and your cheese. I am the official judge. Now, the fact that the ribbons are already out, beside the point. He doesn't care. He is the official judge. He has his own sign. There you go. It says right there, official judge. Anyways, so this is going to be my next painting. I will obviously brighten up the colors and stuff and do my usual kind of stylistic thing. The people in the background, I'll probably they'll be made into rats. Let's put it that way, because everybody's a rat in Ratsville, except for Ricky's girlfriend's half rat, half mouse cousin Miles. He's only half a rat. He's half mouse, but he's an exception. Anyways, so this is the next painting, and what I have now, and I actually, because said I would go with choosing the canvas. So this guy, if I pull you up, I'm just on like a folding table I have in the middle of my studio. This guy is 24 by 30, and that was what I was going to do this on, except then I kind of went and I re-looked at the Cowex, because we have a fine arts division. In fact, the fine arts division is actually what's in the background there. This is a picture, the reference photos from 2022. But fine arts lives around here if you're standing in the flowers. So I thought it would be kind of fun, since in fine arts they have a class for acrylic painting. I've entered once before, but it was my vote for Miles, and I think because it was like a US election year, I think people thought it was like a thing on Trump, and it really isn't. I mean, I did use a photo of Trump for the pose reference, but it was more based on Miles's personality. I mean, anyways, this year I didn't get any paintings done in time. I did have a cartoon and a print that both got ribbons, and the cartoon got first, actually. I think I may have posted a reel of my Cowichan ribbons from earlier this year. I don't remember. It would, if so, it would be in September. You'd have to scroll back. But anyways, I decided it would be kind of fun and, you know, meta and whatnot to do a painting of Ricky at Cowichan for Cowichan. So, and also because the deadline for this is it's not till September, so we got loads of time. This is a painting where I'm only going to work on it on camera for these Paint with Pyra segments, so it doesn't matter if it takes a while to get it done, right? Which is why we're doing something with that much of a lead time. The only thing is, it occurred to me I should double check the requirements, and the requirements list a maximum. Now it says 36 inches by 24 inches. Now, or 36 by 26 is the maximum canvas size or frame size for anything in fine arts. Now, which, hey, there's a lot of entries, and the gal who runs that division has to really squish things in. There's a ton of stuff. So I get it. I don't mind there being a maximum. But my thing is, okay, so this is a vertical, right? So when they say 36 by 26, is that 36 wide and the maximum height can only be 26 inches? Because the canvas at 24 by 30 is smaller, right? It's within that size thing. But if I'm hanging this vertically, which is what I want to do, then we kind of have a problem, right? So, because then it's, you know, it's 4 inches too tall. But some people, because it doesn't say width this, it just gives the numbers, right? Anyways, so I'm probably overthinking it. It will probably be fine. The other thing I got to consider is, does it have to be vertical? Now the photo reference is vertical, so I would have to crop it quite severely, and I really want these banners in because that's what really tells you you're at Cowichan. So, I mean, I could crop, but if I cropped it to the right proportions, then we're like that. I might have other photo references that are horizontal, but they're not of the flower section, right? And also, fine arts here, weed is actually like in the hall. It's like right here, relatively speaking. So I kind of like it where Ricky's looking at the weed division. And if you know the layout of the hall, which obviously people on the internet probably, you know, unless you happen to be local, you wouldn't, but people who are going to see this in person are going to kind of go, oh, flowers, yeah, maybe, probably nobody cares, right? But I'm overthinking. So any of the horizontal photos, I knew I wanted to do this painting at Cowichan, like, so I did take reference photos, but I think all the reference photos I took this year were vertical. So we have a dilemma. If I want it vertical, I need probably a 24 by, instead of 24 by 30, I'd need like 20 by 24, slightly smaller canvas. Or I have to mess around and try and make a horizontal version. So we're going to pause here before we get to the gessoing. Anything else, it would kind of be like, well, whatever. If it's too big, I'll just display it somewhere else. But specific to Cowichan, right? So anyways, I am going to pause the video here, and I'm going to have another look at my reference photos and maybe patch Ricky in to another one if I can make it work. Because if I have this 24 by 30 canvas and I put it horizontally, then it is definitely within the size constraints. All right, it's only a few minutes later and laziness is won. But also, it doesn't look as bad cropped with the bottom cropped out as I feared. I was worried that it would look too squishy. But also we've got Ricky kind of from the hips up. So in the vertical version, he's a fair bit closer to the camera. Can I get my fingers in camera to do air quotes? And further away from the tables. Here, he's kind of standing right in front of the tables. But that's fine. That works. So first thing I'm going to do is gesso it. I'll end up probably doing 2 coats, one going kind of one way and one going the other way. I'll zoom in to sort of try and show you why I want to do that. Because the canvas is pre-gessoed, but it's a spray gesso and it's pretty thin, so it doesn't hide the like the canvas texture. And some painters, it doesn't matter. I tend to paint fairly thinly, so that texture really shows. I think I talked about that in the Ricky B or the Ricky Still Life. That got to be annoying. So the second thing I'm going to do, and there's a note about it right here. If I go zoom in like that, where it says color reference, because this is a better color than that. I don't know. I think I'm running out of the pink or magenta ink. And that's why everything looks so green. So this is a better color reference, but also like the undertones up here, I don't know how much it shows in the camera, but in the printout and when I look at this photo on screen, these lights are kind of giving a pink hue to the wall. The wall actually, honestly, is more cream colored. It's a little bit off-white. But then you have the concrete that's kind of got a bluish under, which we don't see as much of the concrete in the horizontal version, but there is a bit of a bluish and even a greenish undertone in the whites and grays. So what I'm going to do, because my painting style, I tend to, like I'll draw on the image after the gessos. Anyways, I draw on the image, but then I'll come close to, sometimes I'll go over those lines. I do it with acrylic paint markers, but sometimes I just come up to them and so some of the under shows through, and I don't want it to show plain white, either the plain white canvas or the plain white gesso, right? Not. So what I do is I go over and actually, let's hold that thought. I can grab a small example. Okay, this is like really crappy little canvas that I did this. I've been doing this sort of first layer technique since, I don't know, 2016 or so. But I'll just get random colors and scrub over and whatnot, right? Back in the day, I didn't necessarily go around the back, but then you end up with this kind of, anyways. I don't use these skinny canvases anymore. I like the big fat ones. So these I just have for like, I would do studies on them or whatnot, or a little exercise if I'm practicing something. I still have a bunch of them, but ones I had that I hadn't started painting on, I actually gave away to like Value Village 3-4 years ago. But anyways, I will do something like this. And at this point, when I used to do these in 2016, I would have a lot of this show through. So I wouldn't worry about what, I'm gonna zoom out again. I wouldn't worry so much about what color this was, because I would just pick one that suited my mood, and then if I had a little figure, like this would actually show. But as I alluded to in the last Ricky videos you may have seen, that had a lime green, like a really bright, vibrant green showing through, but it was all covered pretty much, so you would just see little hints of it coming through along the lines. So because of that, because it's getting covered, my more recent approach to this is that I will actually pick something that's a complementary color. So because this has a bit of a pinkish in the wall at the top, and then a more bluish, greenish at the bottom, after the gesso is dry, when I do this kind of a random mess to cover up the white, the top is going to have a green, and then it's going to, somewhere in here, it's going to transition into orange and pink undertone and sort of zigzag through, I guess, so that when this is all covered up, we'll see little snippets of that showing through, and it'll kind of go like that, which is what I kind of like. Go to the first Scuttlebutt video from December 6th. There is a video that pans over my Noah colada, and in that the hot pink shows through. So anyways, that's kind of a similar idea. I may, to make these areas, the plain wall, more interesting, I may let that color show through in more patches. And there are spots in the Ricky Still Life where it shows more heavily than others. So anyways, blah, blah, blah. Let us now move on to, I'm not going to show the second gesso coat, but I will show the first. And that kind of goes. I'll probably zoom in somewhat when I start. Actually, why don't we do that right now? And there is a big old shadow because the light is right up there, so therefore the phone is casting nasty shadows on here. We will, whoops, I'm sorry about that. Oh my God. This is like a cheap Amazon tripod, which is great for over the desk. And let me go put on a different light. But I wanted to zoom in, if I can. Actually, we may not actually be able to see it clearly. Oh, now there we go. If I come right in, you can see that canvas texture, which, hey, canvas texture is canvas texture. It is what it is, right? But because of my painting style, I would like to not have that show so much. Pardon me while I try and figure out the best way to film this, because it's kind of gonna look weird because it's white on white. So, and I mentioned in my other painting videos about Stevenson, they don't exist anymore. I still have a lot of Stevenson stuff, so we're going to be trying to, oh boy. Oh lordy, if I can get this open. Oh no, oh, woohoo, we got it open. Sometimes that stuff is kind of, it gets painted in the grooves of the threads and then it won't open. But we need to mix this up, so maybe grab one of my cheap painting knife to stir it up. Anyway, Stevenson, the company went out of business a long time ago, but you wouldn't know that by my paint hoard. I still have a ton of it, but we want to use this up before we use up Golden or Liquitex gesso that I have, because this is obviously older. So, I mean, if I wanted to do, I don't know how much that scraping picks up in the mic. If I really wanted to do really thick paint strokes, and if I was painting abstract, I would probably do this whole process entirely with the painting knife. Oh, it does show up on the camera, right? Cool. But because there's going to be faces in here, I mean, you change things. I mean, Ricky's Still Life, there are brush strokes in his face that do not match the little dude's face. But we will at least goober things on and then try and make it somewhat smooth with the brush. That's probably way more than I actually need on this, but I'm wanting to get rid of the texture, right? Sorry, I suddenly got paranoid about whether or not I had any sound going with my lav mic, because at the point of this being posted a couple weeks ago, I had done a video where my entire first take, like 48 minutes or something, I had the mic on, but it didn't record any audio. So now I'm like constantly going, I have to stop the video and go and make sure there's whatever. So for this coat, I'm going to go pretty much all just across in my brush strokes. And then after it dries, tomorrow, oops, let me see my head banging into the thing. then I will go and I'll do this way, but I'm not going to film that because it's just going to be more of the same, right? But let's goober more on. It's okay. I'm going to let it dry for an entire day. I mean, you probably could come over and do the other coat in a couple hours, but, you know, I'm going to be working on Noah comics at that point. So, what time is it now? Not that it matters to you guys, but in real world, my time, it is, 2:15 in the afternoon. So, by the time this dries, it's like dinner time, and then it's, work on something else sitting at my desk time. So I probably won't, like I said, I will probably, especially because I'm goobering this on pretty thick, I'm probably going to let it dry for a bit. And some people some people actually like sand in between to get it like super smooth. Because I'm not a smooth painter, I paint thinly, but I don't paint smoothly. I don't mind even where we get where I flick it and there's like a texture where the brush changes directions. That's cool. I just don't I don't even mind the canvas texture showing in through in some spots. I just don't want it to be everywhere, right? So therefore we do this. And that's kind of about it. I'm not gonna when I'm painting, I do wrap my paint around, the sides, but I'm not gonna worry about gessoing the sides. Like if somebody really wants to inspect the sides, the reason why I wrap my paint, so to speak, in that sense is because I am messy. So I've heard people say, "Oh, leave your edges pure white and just stop the painting." I'm pointing at stuff that's not on camera. Leave the canvas pure white and just stop the painting right at that edge. It don't work. I get paint going over regardless. And I've heard people say, "Oh, tape it off." Again, my paint finds its way under the tape, or maybe I just have crappy tape. Also, I mean, now I'm starting to paint more, so I'll be finishing a painting in a more reasonable time. But at times when I've had other focuses and I haven't been so much, finishing a painting within 6 months, if you leave masking tape on too long, you can get like sticky residue that stays and and then it looks bad and all that. So I prefer to not do that. And other people have said, "Oh, go around after the paint's done, paint the edges, either paint them white, but then if you use obnoxious color like I do, it would take so many coats of white to get it." And I am a messy painter. I will get then white going over onto here, and people say, "Oh, paint it black." Well, that would cover the color, but again, I've tried that before, and then I get black swooping in on my front side in a way that is messy and whatnot. So I don't do that. I just wrap the color around from whatever it is on the side and kind of try and make it look logical. Like there's a little bit of a hassle on the Ricky's still life because I had an easel to contend with, and the easel was at an angle, so it looks wrong when you actually look at how it wraps around. But anyways, I just got a little bit left on there, but so I'm just going to smooth that out. And yeah, so now we've got some texture. Oh, shit. Excuse me. We have an emergency. I just flicked some gesso onto my carpet. Well, there is forever a slightly lighter spot in there, but because even going that quickly, it didn't really come out. Like, what did I say about being a messy painter, right? but it's okay. I wiped up the worst of it. And I mean, okay, this is a cheap indoor outdoor rug. I got it for probably, and it's huge. It's like, oh my God, it's like 10 feet by 13 feet or something, or 9 feet by 12 feet, something like that. It's massive. But I got it from Wayfair for probably like 100 no, I think it was about $200, but it's big. So, and it was chosen specifically because I knew this was going to be the studio and get messy, but it still sucks. You'll notice that if we swoop over to here, that is a canvas drop cloth. Why? Because hey, I was talking about background color poking through. This is the Noah Colada piece. So we may have some of this sort of thing happening in the background on the walls for Cowichan, but we'll see. Anyways, we will see. So anyways, I have a drop cloth under where my easel is, but I didn't think to put a drop cloth underneath the table. This table is a folding table. Yeah, this table is a folding table that I have in case I start doing markets. They had them on sale at Canadian Tire, so I grabbed one. And just set it up for the, well, I said I was going to leave this here all day, so I'll set it up for like the next 2 days, but then it's getting folded up and put away again. So yeah, anyways, if I angle this, you can sort of see that there are brushstroke texture, but it's not, I like that better than plain canvas texture. And some of this will still have, like one particular spot. Can I zoom it in? Yeah, probably not. Like there, you can see there's the brush strokes, but there's also like the canvas texture showing through a little bit. Now, when I do the second coat in the other direction, that should take care of more of that. But I don't mind a little bit of it, and then obviously when I have the paint strokes in the underlayer and whatnot. But like I said, I didn't want it all over. I wish I had done a re-gesso with the Ricky Still Life before I went ahead and painted the undercolor layer, like the bright green, because the canvas texture was starting to bother me. Anyway, so this has been probably an excessively long-winded for what it is, but this has been this week's Paint with Pyra. Like I said, after this dries, I'll do another gesso in the other direction with brush strokes. And then the next time I see you, we will be putting on the crazy color undercolor, underpainting. Technically an underpainting is the image, right? Where you're painting in like the base colors or like a value study of the image at full size. So it's not really an underpainting, but it's like a base coat. I don't know what you want to call it, but color wash, whatever. So anyways, thanks for watching. Bye for now. And we will see you next time on Painting with Pyra.